Hi guys, best regards from Ingolstadt. I have heard that you entered the Kamel GT Championship this year in the good old GTO car, so I wish you best of luck and a lot of success.
Best greetings to all drivers from the Audi GTO 90 Championship. Good success.
While we sadly don't know when we might get to see the real Sebring Super Weekend this year, here in the virtual world, our drivers are still able to assemble and compete. The digital recreation of Sebring is just as challenging, and when you toss in the fact that they'll be racing it today on vintage machinery, it ups the ante. We'll see who comes away with the victory as we get ready to watch round one of the iRacing Kamel GT series, and you'll see it all live here on the global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beer. Sebring is one of the longest running racetracks here in America. Knowing that merits a little time to familiarize ourselves better. Let's head down to the track guide to do just that. Welcome to Sebring International Raceway. Home to the 12 Hours of Sebring, one of the most grueling tests in endurance racing, this is a track which has earned a fearsome reputation among drivers. The circuit itself is located on the southeastern edge of the city of Sebring, Florida, and was built out of Hendricks Army Airfield shortly after World War II. 3 layouts are currently in use, ranging from 1.7 to 3.7 miles in length. The longest course, which is perhaps the most well-known with it being the one used for the famed endurance race, shockingly still contains portions of the original airfield surface. It's this aspect which has become a signature feature of the track, making it extremely bumpy for racing. Sunset Bend in particular nearly shakes cars apart while they attempt to navigate the high-speed 180-degree corner. As you'd expect for the side of an airfield, there's nearly no elevation change over the course of a lap, but many of the curves are dramatically tall and unforgiving, daring drivers to glance them yet not hit them directly. Thankfully, places to pass are plentiful, including spots like the Hairpin and Cunningham. However, the many fast, sweeping turns creates a dilemma for car setup, since a vehicle that's made too stiff could wind up bottoming out on the onerous bumps. In the end, if you have the wherewithal to withstand the track's rough nature, you're likely to fare well. And since Florida fans almost always show up in huge numbers to witness this test of car and driver, you'll have plenty to impress at this legendary North American road course. You see a few of the sights around here in Florida, but Adam, we've got an interesting race on our hands and a very interesting track to start it on.
Definitely, Joe. The season opener is going to be at Sebring International Raceway, and this is known for its unique, flat, unbanked airport layout with many changes in surface type over its 3.7 mile or 6 kilometer, 17 turn Grand Prix course. The highlight, of course, being Sunset Bend, a bumpy, late apex corner that is challenging for every car that drives it. Today, these vintage Audis and Nissans will have a lot to contend with. Usually, I mention how the Audis just try to hang on the tracks that we go to, while the Nissans try to dodge the Audis. The latter may still be true, but the Audis actually feel very at home here on the bumps, while the Nissans will struggle to get their power down and keep it down, with the many curves, curbs, and heavy braking zones attempting to loosen those turbocharged rear wheels. The Audi's only real struggle today will be through Sunset and Turn 1, and being trapped behind timid Nissans as they exit the corners. This course always gets crazy with the multi-class action we see here, Joe. Seeing as this is a new season for these guys, how did their interclass battles wrap up at the last place we went 2 weeks ago?
Well, in the prototype championship up at the top, it was Ardo Iamaki who wound up taking it in the end. It was a close one. 8 points between Lepisto and Iamaki. Two Finns trying to decide things, and it came down to the last race, the very last laps. Fabian Gerber wound up a distant third, having not been able to participate in the majority of the season. Justin Albrecht also suffering the same fate, and of course, predictably winding up a little bit down the order, down fourth. And then Laust Olsen, of all people, usually not a front runner that we talk about a lot, but he was consistent last season, and that net him a top 5. Well done to Laust Olsen. Credit where credit is due. Of course, we have a GTO championship that we ran. Why don't you go over that, Adam?
Yeah, definitely. And Dennis Neidhart had the championship locked in before he entered the last round, and Jodny Hagner pretty well had second locked up as well. But Franco Scurry down there in third and Reed Miller in fourth, actually, they both jumped 2 positions and got up there. So Franco took that bronze medal in the last round himself due to Philip Lake and Esko Letoniemi not showing up. So great finishes for them at the end of the season.
Now, let's focus on this season now, because we have race details for today. So this is what we are facing. We are in the first round, as we mentioned, of a 12-round season. This is a 40-minute race that they're running here today, as opposed to the endurance format that we saw 2 weeks ago. They have no free repair in this series, so if you get damage on the car, you've just got to deal with it. That'll be a big deal in these Nissans with all the downforce they rely on. They also have an incident limit. Now, they have penalties handed out at 17 incidents, so that includes off-tracks, contact spins, etc. They are forced to come in for a stop-and-go penalty in pit lane. If they hit 25, they will be disqualified, which means they will immediately be removed from the track, literally just disappear as soon as they hit that limit. That's the wonders of the virtual world. Right now in qualifying, we've got a few of our Nissans just finishing the lap. First one is Nick Mukanos. Naturally, he takes provisional pole, but is replaced by Ardo Iamaki. So our champion from last season is currently looked to be pretty fast, kicking things off. Still waiting for a lot of them to come in. And Fabian Gerber, Justin Albrecht, it is just tumbling down the times.
Yeah, Joe, and for those who have not watched an iRacing qualifying session like these ones before, this is the closed qualifying session, which means that each driver gets to go out on the track on their own. They're all driving simultaneously, but they don't have other cars on the track to deal with while they do this qualifying. And this just shortens the amount of time that qualifying takes and gets these drivers into the race all the quicker.
And it looks like Fabian Gerber's not going to be able to set a second lap because I see him grayed out on my screen. He must have had a wreck or something that caused him to call it a day early here in qualifying. Again, they get 2 laps to try and go their quickest. And if you have an off track or some sort of incident, it does not count. So you have to keep it clean. Justin Albrecht holds the provisional pole. Dennis Neidhart, champion last season in the GTOs, is our quickest. And he also is not going to take his second lap. He quits after 1.
We're taking a look at Ardo Iamaki as he goes around a couple of the final corners coming up to Sunset Bend. He's on the back straight right now, and Ardo has had a lot of success throughout this series, but Justin Albrecht and Fabian Gerber, looks like Ardo's actually going to abandon this second lap.
He is. He's parking it. So Albrecht is coming around to finish his lap. This is Nick Mukanos, who's currently in 6th. His second lap is going to be a 46.5. That's faster, but it doesn't improve his position. And I see Kitty Ingstrom is still out there. He's in 4th, so he could maybe try and do something. Michael Houghton has hopped over to the Nissans. He's in 5th. He's looking quick. Justin Albrecht, who is already on pole, is going to be able to take a second lap, but it's not faster. About a 10th slower for him. So let's switch over to Houghton here in the number 7.
Yeah, Michael Houghton here is coming around the final corner of Sunset Bend. He's already got a 146.13 in the bank. And we're going to see whether or not he can improve as he crosses the line. It's going to be a 146.8, so that is not an improvement for him.
Ooh, a slight improvement for Kitty Ingstrom, but he stays in P4. 45.801 for him. Most of our Nissans are now done. Let's turn our attention to the battle for the pole in the GTOs. Nico Arvelomi currently sitting in second over there. He has a 59.4, but he's got 7/10 to make up. Is this going to be enough? No, he goes 1/10 quicker, so he'll stay in second, but he does not overtake Neidhart. Reed Miller goes into second place with a 59.1, though.
That was a fantastic lap from Reed Miller. We're going to take a look at Giuoco Lascala as he comes across the line. He's rounding Sunset Bend now in that number 6 car. Here it comes across the line. He has a 2-minute flat to beat, and he has a 1:59.764. A good second attempt from him.
That'll get him up to 5th place, so inside of that 3rd row. I see Hideki Koivisto still out there trying to finish his lap. Actually, no, he's finished both of his laps. And I believe pretty much everybody has now. Actually, yes, indeed. Our qualifying is now over unless Terry Rochat, who we are on board with, is able to complete this in time. He's got a little more than 30 seconds. This is going to be very tight, actually.
Yeah, he's driving pretty slow right now. I'm not sure whether he's really going out for a qualifying time. It's possible they missed some shifts going down the straight. Here it comes through the last corner. The Audi car is very difficult to handle when it comes to the gearbox. So here we go. Thierry coming across the line, still slow out of the corner.
Might just be a little bit of a newcomer. His first lap was a little slow. This one was quicker, though. It's a 2:09.7. That is still going to stick him in last of the Audis that have got a time in. But our grid is now set, so let's go through that starting order. Justin Albrecht is on the pole in the GTPs. It is Fabian Gerber that is starting next to him. The two old rivals are back at it again, but now they've got a multi-time champion with him as well. Ardo Iamaki has been on a tear the last few seasons. He'll start in 3rd. Kitty Engstrom, who has continued to improve his pace race after race, is now starting 4th today. Could he maybe find himself a win in this series? Michael Houghton starts in 5th, and then the outside of row 3 has Laust Olsen in P6. Nicholas Mukanos got bumped down to 7th in the end with Martin Krejcik in 8th place. Matthias Havdahl starts 9th. And Tobias, Fabian's brother, Tobias Gerber, starts in 10th. Then on the next page, we've got Heitor Sintez Guindo starting 11th. Luka Lekovic in P12 today, and Gabriel Lanini starting in 13th place. Guillermo Kramer starts 14th, Pablo Suarez in P15, and Johnny Bell in the 16th position. Ryan Lang is the last of the Nissans to put a time in at 17th. They got a whole lot of them that didn't manage to get a time down. Michael Fazzari, Mike Reuter, Andre Juteau, Roy Pruitt, and Nicholas Weatherby are the last of the field in the GTPs. Let's go to the GTOs.
Dennis Neidhart takes pole after winning last championship. Reed Miller, a surprise 2nd place for him. A fantastic 2nd lap for him here at Sebring. Nico Arvelomi comes home in 3rd. He starts in 3rd, rather, alongside Alice Scurry. Then we have Giuco Lascala starting in 5th with Andrea Albertinelli in 6th place. Hideki Koivisto is going to start off 7th, alongside him is Remigio De Pasqua in 8th. Simo Raba and Greg Stefani round out your top 10 starting positions with Michael Frost in 11th, Thierry Rochat in 12th, Pablo Rangel is going to start off 13th, and Giulio Forcolin is going to start off 14th for the Audis. And there you see those remaining GTPs who did not qualify.
Good news is the prototypes will line up within their class, so they won't have to weave their way through on those first few laps unless they start from pit lane. Despite the iRacing Sebring 12 hours actually taking place right now, we have a pretty decent field here today. So I guess all the regulars and a few fans have managed to get time off from their stints out in the endurance race and been able to run some vintage machinery around the same track. I'm sure they'll be sick of Sebring by the time this weekend is over. We get a chance to really get some good views of this track and just how bumpy it is. I know we talk about it a lot, Adam, but for our audience that is wondering why we stress the bumps so much, you can't overstress. This is such a big part of the character of this track.
Yeah, and actually those bumps actually make this one of my personal least favorite courses to race on the service, with one exception: when I'm driving the Audi GTO. This car makes this track so much fun. It has 4-wheel drive. It has that turbo engine in it that really does not take very long to spool up at all. It just rockets out of the corners, and it handles these bumps very well. It makes this track very exciting, very fun. You can get into some four-wheel slide here and still make a good time on your lap. So these Audis are really fun to drive around this course and can handle these bumps very well. The Nissans, on the other hand, Joe, these guys have got to have feather right feet. They have got to be very careful as they tackle this course. The bumps around here can completely destroy the Nissans, and the reason is because they have a lot of turbo lag before the turbo really spools up and gives them a lot of power. When you're coming off the corner and going over curbs and bumps, what that ends up doing is it ends up upsetting the car. It can spin up those rear wheels, get them unseated from the turf, and what that ends up doing is sending your car around. We're going to see quite a few of those today, I would guess.
Yeah, I would assume so. It seems like it's usually a tough one when this series visits here. But honestly, one of the reasons I love having you here in the booth with me is because you've actually driven in this series quite a bit. So it's good to have someone who's been in the proverbial trenches, so to speak, because this is such a unique multi-class series. And it seems like it takes a bit of getting used to and how these two cars interact. Are there any pitfalls that the drivers need to worry about specific to this track?
Well, for this track, the Audis need to be the patient ones. The Nissans are going to be carrying far less speed out of the corners than the Audis are, just because they have to be very careful over the bumps. So the Audis are going to have to be very, very careful following Nissans out of the corners in order not to spin them around. Whereas the Nissans have to be very careful because the Audis need to take the racing line. Otherwise, they will fall off the track and wreck. So they will not be kind to the Nissans if they try and dive bomb late into some of these faster corners. They need all of that time.
We'll see who's got the experience and got the knowledge to try and avoid those sort of problems, because already we are on the Ullman Straight, and the leader of those, Justin Albrecht, up at the front behind the Porsche pace car, is going to get the green flag pretty soon for 40 minutes of racing to start off a new season. The points have been reset. We are ready to go. And it is a beautiful day out here in the virtual world, 75 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface. So very grippy conditions, and it is only partly cloudy, so they should only get a few bits of shade here and there. As they come around Sunset Bend, waiting patiently now. Porsche pace car ducks into pit lane. Albrecht has control. He takes off immediately. Green flag is out. It's a very good jump, and Fabian Gerber is immediately under threat. Ardo Iamaki down to his inside. Could take the second place away as they come up into turn one. He is going to manage to get to the inside, but he's got to get a good exit, and it looks like Gerber's coming back at him. And Gerber's going to take second place back. Everybody else getting mostly single file. Let's go to the GTOs.
And Joe, I could have sworn that Dennis Neidhart had comms with Justin Albrecht, because he took off as soon as Justin Albrecht did. And these Audis are actually behaving very well as they go through these first set of corners. A couple of guys struggling in the back. We have a couple of new drivers here this week, but the Audis already single file and chasing off down into the next couple of corners.
As we come back to the GTP class, Fabian Gerber still trying to defend on Ardo Iamaki, but same thing behind them. For fourth place, Kenny Engstrom had to fight off a very hard charging Michael Houghton. He's managed to do that successfully. You can see a defensive line to the inside from the blue and white machine from Fabian Gerber. He feels under threat very, very early from Ardo Iamaki, it seems.
Yeah, these GTPs are going to be very, very close to one another throughout these first couple of laps, especially up until they run into the GTOs. So we're going to watch to see. This is the time when guys need to make moves. Track position's really important here. So if you're really close to a guy, it's time to make a move now before you catch up to those lap cars.
Well, let's head back to the lead in the GTOs, because Dennis Neidhart actually has Reed Miller very close behind him. They've stretched away from Arvelomi, who's about 2 seconds behind. But Reed Miller applying the pressure, trying to see if he can take over the current reigning champion and kick things off with a win. Miller was coming on strong at the end of last season, so he's obviously carrying that form.
Yeah, Reed Miller really does have an opportunity to win a championship if he can best Dennis Neidhart this season. And they've got Roy Pruitt and Andre Giteau ahead of them. Roy is actually pretty slow through the corners, so Dennis and Reed might really struggle here if they catch up to those GTPs, because they're going to have to try and make a pass. So Reed Miller's got to be looking at his options here and trying to make the best move possible.
Those two prototypes as we now ride on board with Reed Miller looking up ahead. trying to break the draft a little bit here. Dennis Neidhart weaving across the track. They continue to gain time on Roy Pruitt up ahead of them. And I think we had an issue ahead of them as well because Ryan Lang is off the track. Well, hopefully he can get it going before they get to him.
He can. Yes, it was a single car incident, Joe.
Good to see that he's got that GTP back on the track. And we've had another one with Reuter also turned around in the hairpin. Some early problems for our prototypes. Reuter gets it going also.
Yeah, Reed Miller and Dennis Neidhart are closing very quickly on Roy Pruitt. This could be really dangerous for them because Roy is definitely faster than them on the straights, but through these curves, it looks like Dennis and Reed are making time on the GTP. So wow, the GTP is breaking extremely early. This is going to get dangerous, Joe.
He closed in a lot of time. This is highly unusual. Usually the prototypes can break way later than those Audis. Neidhart has got to be trying to assess the situation carefully, figure out if he should try and overtake this prototype. He takes a lot of curb in the process through Tower, and Reed Miller's trying to take advantage of that. Looks like Roy is just going to let them go and just, I think he's parking it. Yeah, he's pulling off track.
Yeah, I mean, you don't ever want to see someone pull it off track and park it like that, but it was definitely the best option to let these guys go if they're catching up so quick.
So as they come onto the Ullman straight, Miller not able to take advantage, but this has slowed them up slightly. Arvalomi has closed the gap down to 0.7 of a second, and he's bringing friends. Some of these long straights could offer a slipstream enough for him to get into this fight.
Reed Miller is very, very close to the back of Dennis Neidhart, and as they get onto the straight, Dennis gets a really good corner exit and launches off the corner. This is going to negate any sort of opportunity Reed Miller might have had into turn one, but this does allow Nico Arvalomi to really close in with them, and as they go through turn one, look at that, Dennis Neidhart wide a little bit. This might give an opportunity to Reed Miller coming into the next section.
Just can't quite carry the speed off of turn one. He's going to take a look down into three, but there's just nothing there. And you can see behind them, it is becoming a train now. Arvalomi has La Scala and Scurry behind him. That's Alice Scurry, by the way, not Franco, who we're used to seeing. I don't believe he's here today. So now it's not just one car he's got to deal with, but if he gets in a battle, there are 4 others involved.
Yeah, and this is all rounded out by Andrea Albertinelli, who's in the back of this in 6th place. So these Audis are really starting to bottle up behind Dennis Neidhart, which is a little bit of a surprise because Dennis was so strong throughout all of last season. So Dennis now being held up a little bit by the GTP ahead of him. That's Andre Chateau. This is going to get really exciting.
As they come out of Collier and into Tower, one of the trickier braking zones for these cars. So far, Neidhart has been dealing with the pressure well. They call him the Anvil, as you'd expect. This is going to be a tough nut to crack for Miller. That Nissan is very slow. He's also starting to pull aside, trying to let these two through. Is he also going to continue, or is he going to just put it off the track here now that he's been caught by the slower class? Looks like he's going to keep going, but this means he's going to be quicker in a straight line. Oh, it is a missed shift from Neidhart. Now Miller's going to come back at him, but he's going to be forced around the outside as they come up the Sunset Bend. Is Dennis going to try and outbrake him into the corner? He's fully ahead of him. Dennis sticks with it, but he can't get the overlap. Now in the second part of the braking, he's better is behind them. There's some action with that GTP. Getting in some contact, but off the corner, it's side by side at a drag race. It looks like Miller does have the lead now.
Reed Miller has the lead, but Dennis Neidhart's not done yet. We know how he is on the brakes. Here he goes to the inside, a shallow entry into one, forces Reed Miller to the outside. Reed Miller's going to have to try and push it through on the outside, but this means Dennis Neidhart's on the inside for the next corner, which is a sharp left-hander, and that puts him at the advantage. Reed Miller has to back off, and Dennis retakes the lead.
Wow, what a rebound from Dennis Neidhart back into the lead. An update, Juteau did make contact with Lascella. The Finn, unfortunately, hitting him on the way into Sunset Bend. We'll get back to that later because this battle's still on. Miller with a great run, looks with his nose down to the inside of the hairpin, but nothing doing there. Backs out of it, and he's going to have to set it up for a little bit later. Still, it is getting tense up at the top of our GTO class.
Some of you may be wondering why Reed just didn't send it in there and door Dennis Neidhart. That's because the front suspension of these Audis is very fragile. It also provides drive to these cars, so if you damage that front suspension, it can reduce your speed on the straights down 3, 4, 5, even 6 miles per hour. So Reed Miller's thinking to himself, it's not time to get into some kind of action yet.
No, we've been focusing a lot on the GTOs, but while this has calmed down, let's head over to the prototypes. Sintez Guindo and Krejcik fighting for 9th place. We still have Albrecht leading. Fabian Gerber's dropped off of him, though. It's about 3.5 seconds. Not a lot to see there, so we're going to watch the action here. We got a bit of a train also forming back behind them. That's Tobias Gerber back there, along with Gabriel Lanini in the fight.
Yeah, these guys have been nose to tail for a couple of laps now, and Krejcik really trying to close in on Sintez Guindo, but Sintez Guindo seems to have the corner exits down, which is a great strategy on trying to make sure that people don't pass you. So he's really doing exactly what he needs to do to try and survive.
With a little bit of a look to the inside. Unfortunately, doesn't quite pay off. Sintez Guindo holds him back. Krejcik and Tobias Gerber. Ooh, a little bit of offline for Martin Krejcik coming into tower. Off the corner, though, he's looking very handy. So they will stay put, all four in a line, being led by Sintez Guindo.
Yeah, and at some point, it's gonna come down to a mistake by one of the drivers that's gonna allow a pass to happen, just because of how tight this course is and how quick they can take it. But we need to go back to the battle for the GTO lead, because Reed Miller and Dennis Neidhart are really getting at it right now. Dennis blocking into the hairpin. Reed Miller trying to take the inside line. He had a good run out of the corner, but unfortunately Dennis Neidhart is insistent on keeping this lead, and now they have Alice Scurry only 9/10 back, but can't get it done.
He's putting a lot of pressure, and he's got a mistake out of him once again. Dennis Neidhart wide coming into Cunningham. Side by side through Collier's, not easy. It gives the inside to Reed Miller into the braking zone of Tower. Can he seal the deal this time? He is just barely by, but it's enough, and he is clear of Dennis Neidhart. Scurry has gotten past Arvelomi when we weren't looking, as Adam just pointed out. We're going to watch from Scurry's perspective. Oh, both of them are leaders sliding into Jean Debienne, and that's going to slow them up. Could this be a good opportunity onto the long Ullman straight for Alice?
Alice could definitely gain time, but he's got Nico Arvelomi behind him. Nico has been missing quite a few shifts this race, which is very uncharacteristic of Nico. But these guys have been off of this car for about 2 weeks now, so it's going to be very interesting. Dennis Neidhart late on the brakes again. Well, look at this. Alice Scurry even later on the brakes as she goes in trying to get in behind Dennis Neidhart.
Oh, off the corner, all of them really stretching it all the way to the outside. If these two keep fighting, it's going to become Alice's restaurant, because she can gobble up them both and take the lead away. And don't forget, Arvelomi's still back there. Albertinelli is in it. And they've even got Lascella still in the fight. He managed to recover from the contact he made with the prototype. Beyond that, it's a big gap to everybody else. But these top six rather, are very, very close. Stick with this for now.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Dennis to try and make a late move here into the corner. Here he goes trying to make a late braking move, but no, Reed Miller unable to do so.
Oh, he was taking a look, though, and we've seen this a lot from both Reed and Dennis. They have not been caught by the prototypes yet. They know this is the clearest this is going to be, and they're desperately trying to get that track position.
Some folks who have caught the back of the prototypes is second place for the GTPs. This is Fabian Gerber and Ardo Iamaki, and it is getting very tense with them. Ardo Iamaki almost thinks about diving it down, and there's a little bit of ghost contact.
Oh, that's going to spin Gerber around. So Iamaki continues on his second. Kitty Ingstrom actually gets third because of this before Gerber gets it going. We're going to look at the replay here. That was big ghost contact between them. A real shame because it was clean fighting.
Yeah, very clean, and Ardo had tons of space on Fabian. Just unfortunately, the netcode decided that they were going to make contact and made it happen. And so that's what happens sometimes on the service. You have to be careful about that. And these GTPs do tend to have a tendency towards this.
So Gerber's trying to get back on Ingstrom now as they both work their way through the traffic. But we go back to the leaders in the GTO because they're on the long straights once again, and still they have not separated.
No, and Reed Miller really struggled coming through Sunset. So this gives an opportunity for Dennis Neidhart. It's possible Reed's burning off his tires. Look at that. He goes wide now into turn 1. Oh, he misses a shift too. Dennis Neidhart pulls out through.
Well, that finicky gearbox of the GTO once again raises its ugly head. And so back into second, Reed Miller falls off of the corner and through Big Bend. Dennis Neidhart looking very strong now. Is Alice maybe thinking about getting into second place, getting herself into this thing, waiting for the braking zone? She's not quite there. So down into the corner, they're going to stay in position. But Reed Miller very, very strong on the brakes compared to what we've seen from Dennis Neidhart, who frankly looks like he is struggling in the braking times.
Yeah, Dennis and Reed both struggle when they're out front, but they're much stronger when they're in second. I find that to be the case myself when I race, but Alice is really surprising me in the braking zone. She's got a really good command of that brake pedal and can gain quite quickly on Dennis and Reed. She just needs to back it off about 5% on her entries in order to get a good exit, and at that point she'll be unstoppable.
Meanwhile, Albertinelli and Lascella, I think they've traded positions, have they not?
They've been trading positions most of this race, Joe, and most of it comes from misshifts from those folks. So a lot of misshifts here at Sebring. That gearbox is really getting bounced around.
Looks like they did not trade positions, but they were awful close. Oh, and Alice misses a shift. Scurry falls down as Arvalomi picks up the position, but now this makes a bit of a gap between Miller and third place. Could this be what allows our top two to finally get away? Meanwhile, Lascella on Albertinelli finally gets his nose in just as our leaders start to come through. It is about to erupt here.
All right, this is Justin Albrecht, our leader, cutting through in that black GTP. He's got to make some stuff happen here as the leader's still battling nearly side by side of the GTOs. Here comes Justin Albrecht. Look at him fly through.
He's given a lot of room by Arvalomi. He wanted to make sure he had the racing line he needed. So all that's left for him to get through the first lapping sequence of these GTOs is the top two. And again, he does not want to interrupt this fight. He's going to go the long way around the Big Bend. But next up is the hairpin. He might have to take the line away from Dennis Neidhart. He outbrakes him, and it looks like he's not going to interrupt.
This may actually slow up Neidhart, though, because the GTP can't get down the speed that the GTO can out of the hairpin. But Reed Miller actually makes a mistake coming out of the hairpin as well. So that gives Des Neidhart a 0.8 second gap.
This breaks up our battle among those top six in the GTOs for a little while until we get more traffic through. Let's go to Gerber, who is trying to get back onto the podium, and he's on Kitty Ingstrom right now attempting to do that.
Yeah, Fabian Gerber trying to recover from that spin, and now they're cutting through the top runners in the GTOs. It really feels strange when you're cutting through a slower class like this because the guys in the back give you a ton of space, and the guys at the front are really intent on taking their own lines. So it feels like three classes on track when you try and pass these slower classes sometimes.
We need to go to it, but Nick Mukanos had a self-spin in a tower. Unfortunately, he has fallen down the order after just nudging the wall. Let's stay on this fight as they come up the Ullman Straight. They're going to go by Alice now, and they might actually cost her the entry. She's going to have to brake a little early. There they go, sneaking through.
Oh,
you can see how much quicker. Oh, Ingstrom into the wall. And that was a hard hit as behind them more problems for Michael Houghton.
Houghton's around in Sunset as well. It doesn't look like he collected too much damage, so he's going to keep going. Oh, wow. A lot of developments here.
Oh, Kitty Ingstrom trying to take in it as deep as possible, and that bit him. So down to fourth. And he just hit the wall. Just live now on screen. You can see he lost it out of the first corner. Here's the first incident. He must have gotten damage for him to spin out that easily on turn one.
He definitely did, Joe. He took his normal racing line and normal braking time through Sunset, and that ended up making him gain way too quickly on the GTO ahead. He had to take evasive action, and he clouded that wall really hard.
And this is
we have a big moment on track right now. 4 cars involved. Johnny Bell, Andre Jiteau, Julian Kramer, and Giulio Forcolin in Sunset Bend.
Oh, yeah, this is a lot of cars, and one of them is a GTO for Colin. The rest are prototypes. Bell got tipped by Kramer. Kramer then went into the GTO car, and poor Jiteau was just kind of an innocent bystander coming across all the mess.
This was a huge incident. So many cars involved. We usually don't see large incidents like this in our road series, but this one took out quite a few cars today.
Especially this late in the race, because we're quite a few minutes in. It was just a perfect storm, unfortunately. They all find their way out to the tire barrier, clattering into the wall. A few of them have already come in for repairs. Johnny Bell is in, Lindstrom is in, but we return to our leader in the GTOs, Dennis Neidhart, who is up and finishing his own lap and finally has a little bit of a gap over Reed Miller. Behind them, that's Terry Rochat. He's getting lapped, actually. I thought Arvelomi was getting a position.
Yeah, we have a battle right now. Yeah, this is between Michael Houghton, Laust Olsen, and Matthias Hovdal as they're trying to cut through the GTOs once again. They've gotten past Terry Rochat, and now they have Nico Arvelomi, Reed Miller, and Dennis Neidhart to get through, and Michael Houghton's actually recovering quite well from his spin, and it's the battle between Laust Olsen and Matthias Hovdal that's getting pretty intense.
You know, we mentioned Olsen finishing within the top 5 in points last season, and it looks like he's doing much the same. He's in 5th right now, trying to keep it with the very hard-charging Hovdal, but it seems like maybe he's learned how to stay out of trouble, keep the car pointed straight, keep the speed up, where others have not. He qualified this race in 6th. He's up 1 position. Certainly seems to at least have relative speed to those around him. Still, a lot of GTO cars that they're having to weave their way through. 2nd place Miller staying out of the way. 1 more to go, and that is going to be Dennis Neidhart, but they've caught him now in one of the twistiest parts of the track.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult place to pass, but Laust Olsen has learned patience. You can see him braking very early, very hard, just hanging out behind Dennis Neidhart. That is the best way to survive and to get consistency, is just to take it a little bit easy. Matthias Hovdal, on the other hand, is being very risky as he goes around the outside through that sector, and now it's just trying to hang on to the back of Laust Olsen for 5th.
Yeah, that Bishop corner,
Oh!
that double apex.
There was contact behind them between Nick Bakanos and Nico Arvelomi, actually, going through that last sector. Those two, this is a GTB and a GTO that got together, and now Aitor is right on the back of Nick.
Oh, yeah, this was a bad moment, and Sintez Guindo, you're going to see, who is applying a lot of pressure, was right there. I think he almost made contact himself. If he did, it was only ghost contact. Oh, no, I think he just wiggled his way out of it. They both, all 3, managed to keep going. The tense moments among them. Our leader in the GTOs, though, is dealing with a lot of them, including Sintez Guindo trying to get through, along with Gabriel Laniti. There is our leader in the GTPs, Justin Albrecht, coming through Cunningham himself. Ardo Iamaki a long ways back from him.
Yeah, Justin's been doing a great job just staying consistent out front, but we know the luck he's had in the past. Oh, Pablo Suarez has gone around and he's collected Hideki Koivisto.
Interclass action is seemed to be the order of the day, unfortunately, as we've had a number of incidents, small incidents, mind you, for the most part. Just been light brushes, not really egregious moves.
Yeah, and that one was Hideki was just going out to the outside of the course like he is needing to do there, exiting the corner. He used that full left lock to try and avoid getting into Suarez, but just was unable to avoid it.
So they both come to a halt and then get the cars back going once again. We are more than halfway through this race at this point, and though the battle in the lead in the prototypes has definitely come apart, in the GTOs, it has stayed together. We keep returning to it here and there, but Neidhart only about 0.8 of a second over Reed Miller, and I think that's closed in if I look at it visually here. Yeah, 0.6 of a second now, so Reed Miller making very good on the exit of Le Mans.
Yeah, Reed giving Dennis a run for his money today. Our points winner from last season, Dennis. And look at that. They have very different lines through Sunset, Joe. Dennis takes it very wide in entry, whereas Reed goes a little bit more shallow. And then Dennis puts down the power early, whereas Reed waits on the power, and they both come out pretty much even.
Interesting to note as well, the traffic's not been kind to Arvelomi. He's about 4 seconds behind them. Now, I wonder where the rest of the traffic is, if they got any more of the GTPs coming through. It looks like the answer is no. So they've got at least a little bit of a reprieve here, these two, to try and keep the fight between them. I love this angle, looking just over the shoulder of Reed Miller, and you can see how hard they're hitting some of these curves.
Yeah, and this is exactly, wow, Reed Miller has got a really good exit. This might make Dennis have to be defensive. He is going to be defensive, so Reed's going to try and go around the outside of the hairpin. That's probably not going to work, Joe.
Oh, maybe he's looking for the over-under, though, and it's just not quite there. Still, it's a decent exit. He is going to get the slipstream as they start to pick up speed once again, and calling off that inside. Dennis Neidhart just making sure that Reed Miller doesn't have the option that he wants.
Yeah, these guys are on the edge. You can see them getting loose, getting a lot of oversteer on braking. This is fantastic racing between the two of them. Dennis Neidhart being very defensive. Reed Miller trying every opportunity he can to make it past. But Reed has got a lot of rear drive in this Audi. You can adjust how much drive goes to which wheel since it's a four-wheel drive car. He has a lot of rear drive in this Audi, and it's making him get a little bit loose on exit.
You know, what's incredible in all that we've seen, we've only had 3 retirees. Engstrom, Bell, and Pruitt are on pit lane. Everybody else of our 36 starters is still going. Boy, that was a great exit off of Le Mans for Dennis Neidhart, because he is certainly stretched away from Reed Miller. And they're going to go right by Juteau one more time, who saw them coming and decided to pull out of the way.
Yeah, Joe, I think what this battle's going to come down to is who's used up their tires more. The temperature stayed pretty consistent over the course of this race. It's only 78 degrees, so that's up about 4 degrees from when we started this race. And so it's going to come down to who's been preserving their tires more by the end of this race to decide who wins this, I think.
These two have not been able to separate. They're both pushing hard. Neidhart slides it into turn 3, gives away all the time that he had pulled away from Reed Miller. This is becoming a bit of a slugfest between these two. And I think you're right. Those tires cannot withstand this sort of hard driving. Another great exit for Reed Miller, looking to the inside into the hairpin.
Dennis got he locked up quite a few of his tires coming into the braking zone for the hairpin, managed to hang on to it, but I thought he was going to overshoot.
Turn 5, that exit seems to really be the strong point for Reed Miller. We've seen him just launch out of there multiple times now, and a little bit off the apex for Dennis Neidhart coming through Cunningham. Still manages to hold off Reed Miller. That number 13 is eager to try and take the victory, but the number 4 is not letting him have it.
This is the closest Reed Miller has been to victory in about a season, Joe. He's really trying to get up there and get to Dennis Neidhart. This is as good as it gets for a battle for the GTO lead, guys.
With apologies to the GTP drivers, really, there's not much in the way of a battle up there. We will jump over if one starts to form. But with this being for the top spot in our GTOs, and with our current champion, our new champion, defending off of a very thirsty driver, I say that we cannot leave this right now. They're going to get lapped by another GTP soon. Luka Lekovic is going to interrupt the fight. Can he find a clean way through as they come through Sunset Bend? A very late apex from Dennis Neidhart to chop off Reed Miller, and the exit compromised for Reed, as here comes Luka.
Yeah, they were both sideways as they went through Sunset. Luka not way down on top speed, so this is going to actually make Dennis have to brake a little bit early for the corner, which gives an opportunity for Reed Miller to close back in.
Off turn 1, it's good for Dennis Neidhart, but we know that he is susceptible to an attack off of this upcoming corner. This left-hander, turn 5. What can we get out of Reed Miller? Is it another good exit? Not as good as we've seen before. And now here comes Mike Reuter along with Pablo Suarez, also looking to lap them.
This is definitely going to interrupt somebody's exit out of the hairpin, and it's going to be Reed Miller's. Reed Miller taking a wide entry to try and get a good exit, but these GT. Oh, Rooter Smiths! Oh, that was close.
Woo, heart attack moment for poor Reed Miller, who just manages to clear Rooter in time. Let's look, if we could get an onboard from the poor number 13 here. Woo! Oh my goodness. That happened so fast. The car just broke away in an instant. Instant, rather.
Yeah, and that's stuff we see quite often from the GTPs. We haven't seen a lot of it today, but yeah, that kind of a moment can happen for sure. We actually have P2 closing in the GTPs. Fabian Gerber's caught up to the back of Ardo Iamaki. They're going to try one more time to do this again.
And it was Ardo who had the speed at the start of this race, remember? He was very much on the attack on Fabian Gerber, but the fact that Fabian has run him back down is very telling. That number 3 looking strong late in the race with 12 minutes to go. I don't think the win is on the cards, but Fabian could get himself a nice bit of points for the second place.
And we're going to go on board with Fabian Gerber as he tries to drive around here. Look how rough this course is. Here they have Hammer Kramer who they're trying to pass. Oh, a little bit of contact there between him and Ardo diving down to the inside of Hideki Koivisto, and Fabian can't follow. He tries. Oh, that was close.
My goodness, Hideki, great heads up from him to see all that's happening and just give enough space to Fabian Gerber. That was costly for the number 3. It's back up to 1.1 seconds between himself and Ardo Iamaki. He's going to have to regain that ground. They're coming up to more traffic, though, so opportunities will abound.
We actually have a battle for P8 in the GTPs between Martin Krajcik and Aitor Sintez-Guindo. They're very close together as they come through the final couple of sectors here onto the back straight. Aitor really has gotten close to Martin Krajcik in these last couple laps and is trying to carry speed off the corner, but gets into the grass and spoils his opportunity. But it looks like Krajcik might just be trying to break his draft.
Yeah, he was definitely weaving coming off the corner, just trying to do all he can to keep him out of the tow as they come up into Sunset Bend and around the corner. A little wide there for the number 14 of Martin Krajcik. He is going to keep it together, and he is going to keep Sintez-Guindo behind.
Yeah, this is all getting very close. The GTPs, some of them are starting to struggle on their tires. Others of them are really coming into their own towards the latter 10 minutes of this race. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the field shuffled.
Absolutely. This is our closest fight in the prototypes right now. Might even be our closest fight on the track of either of the classes, because that battle for second we were watching is split apart. I'm keeping half an eye on it, though, because I know they're coming up to traffic soon. As we watch Sintez-Guindo continue to hound Martin Krajcik, see if he can get that 8th place away. He's got to get a little bit closer if he wants something to happen here.
Yeah, Sintez-Guindo is going to have to hope that these GTOs that are ahead of them, and also the GTOs that are ahead of them, start to make mistakes and start to upset the Martin Krajcik ahead. Otherwise, he's going to have to really claw his way up there himself. Here comes a moment. This is dangerous for Martin Krajcik as they go by Simo Rava, one of the lap GTO cars. That gives the opportunity that Aitor needed to close up to the back of Martin Krajcik.
Great job by Simo Raba to pull out of the way. Interesting to note that these two fighting also brings Gabriel Lanini a bit into the picture. You're going to see flashes of that blue and white cars. A lot of curve there from Sintez-Guindo coming across Le Mans, and immediately once again Martin Krajcik pulling to the inside, then back to the outside, seeing if he could keep the tow from being given to Sintez-Guindo. They head into Sunset Bend one more time. Last time it was wide, and once again it's wide for Martin Krajcik. A big bobble allows Sintez-Guindo to get it down to 0.2 of a second now.
Yeah, Krajcik was very close to hitting the outside tire barrier there. Wow, Aitor Sintez-Guindo very close, but here they come up to Pablo Raga. There's contact. Everybody's around.
And Gabriel Lanini, he's into the wall because he has no place to go. The car that manages to take advantage is Tobias Gerber, getting 3 positions in one move. Another mess into a corner involving multiple classes and multiple cars. I really feel for Gabriel of all people. He was trying to pick a way around, and unfortunately When he should have gone to the outside, he went, or to the inside, he went to the outside, and, well, there was just no more track left there to go.
Yeah, and you're going to see as they come through turn one, it's just too bumpy for Martin Kraytrick to try and make any sort of evasive move. He tries to go to the inside, but the inside closes down as the GTO takes the line, and Gabriel Lanini just comes in late, locking up the brakes.
I'm going to watch Gabe's perspective to get an idea of why he chose the way he did. I mean, it's a split-second decision here, Adam, and it's just, you got to read things as they are.
He locked up the front tires, Joe.
Yeah, no stopping it there. Meanwhile, second place is closed back down, half a second between Gerber and Iamaki with almost the same situation. They've got traffic in front of them in the first corner. They handle it a lot better, though. That was Arvelomi in a fight with Laskela there for third and fourth position in the the GTOs, rather. Everybody gets out the other side of this one.
Yeah, and Fabian Gerber has really been closing very quickly on Ardo Iamaki in the last couple laps as we see shade taking over the course. This is going to affect the driving style for sure as the track starts to cool down just a little bit more likely. And look how close
an
Fabian
attack
is.
Behind them. There was a little bit of a look, from Laskela on Arvelomi, and it didn't quite work out, but he almost managed to get by for that podium position there into the hairpin.
And we got battles starting to crack up all over the place right now. We have this one that we're watching between these two GTO drivers. We also have the battle between Ardo and Fabian Gerber. We also have a three-way battle between Lost Olsen, Matthias Hovdal, and Nick Bakanos for fifth position in the GTPs as well. They're very close together.
There you see right there on screen, Olsen leading the trio. This is actually our best battle, really, right now, for fifth place overall. As they come up into Cunningham. No traffic in front of them for now.
And I can report the resolution to the La Scala Arvelomi battle was Arvelomi getting another misshift, so he's now behind La Scala.
Yeah, and that actually caused contact. Poor Yuko is run into the back of him, not expecting the car to be slow off the corner. Oh, and Fabian Gerber was in a tight moment with our leader. There was contact, actually, between our GTO leader and Ryan Lang, I think.
Yeah, Fabian Gerber is caught up in the middle of a bunch of lapped GTPs and also our leaders in the GTOs. This gets very, very intense for these GTPs as they try and lap their own class. Things can get very tense and salty.
Man, this is a testament that you really can't count your chickens in this series, because I was going to say Dennis Neidhart had pulled a 4 to 5 second gap over Miller. Some of that's gone away with the contact he had, and if he has damage, that is bad news here with 5 minutes to go.
Oh, look at this. Fabian Gerber's going to make contact with Luko Legovic as they go through the hairpin. Legovic not giving Fabian Gerber the time of day right now as Fabian trying to make his way by to keep his battle going with Ardo Iamaki.
Yeah, and that cost Fabian Gerber. It's 1.4 seconds up.
Oh, my goodness!
Oh, Legovic outbreaks himself. That's going to leave a very sore spot in the mind of Fabian Gerber with Luka Legovic.
We're going to take a look at this. I don't know, Joe. That was a hard hit.
Yeah, Gerber's just pulling it back on track now. We're watching the replay. So he seems to be limping. The good news is they had gapped Michael Houghton by such a huge margin. He's actually still in third place, although Houghton is starting to catch him, and considering how big of a thwack that was the rear end of number 3, not sure if he'll have the pace.
Yeah, that's a tough moment for Fabian Gerber, just trying to make it past lap traffic, and it causes an incident. We hear the NASCAR guys talk about it all the time, how difficult it is dealing with lap traffic, but this is a whole different story when they get into the backview like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, lap traffic is just a part of racing sometimes, and as annoying as it can be, everybody's got to deal with it. Meanwhile, the battle for fifth between Olsen, Hovdal, and Mukanos is still on. They have separated slightly, and they've got more traffic here. That's Arvelomi, the experienced driver in this series, pulling off the side. Look at that, nicely done. Let all three of them through in one corner, and everybody's able to continue on just like that. Not missing anything up the top of the GTOs. Neidhart has managed to hold that gap at about 3.2, so he's losing, but not drastically.
And here comes Nicholas Makanos off to the inside of Hovdal here into this corner. This is going to get very tight. And Makanos has to bail.
Oh, he was trying his best not to run into Hovdal, and in his efforts, unfortunately, the rear just comes around. Credit to Nick for keeping from causing an accident, but that pass looked pretty greedy.
Yeah, this is the ultimate sportsmanship, to spin yourself rather than get into another competitor. He knew that he'd button off a little bit more than he could chew, probably about at the apex of that corner, and just locked the brakes down.
Boy, all these battles right at the end are just coming out in explosive finales. Meanwhile, Olsen and Hovdal still have yet to have their finale because the battle for fifth continues. And I think Hovdal, without the pressure behind, is now able to focus forward.
Sorry, Joe. Nicholas Makanos just completely flipped into the wall. Very intense incident.
All right, well, we'll look at that one later. Meanwhile, you can see the lap traffic still causing a bit of a headache. Michael Frost there in the GTO in the way. Lascella, third place driver here in the GTOs. He's going to be caught on the Ullman Straight, and this is probably the best place that he could be caught.
Yeah, the scary part is going to be when Hovdal gets to him, because it's going to be in the braking for sunset. So Hovdal's going to have to dive to the inside here. That was very good from Lascella to let him by. So Hovdal still trying to chase down Olsen. They're catching up to Reed Miller. This is going to give you a good opportunity to see on screen how big the gap is between Reed Miller and Dennis Neidhart now.
We have 2 laps to go, by the way. Albrecht has gotten the popsicle sticks. We're going to get the white flag next time by. We ride on with Hovdal looking ahead to Laust Olsen. Scandinavian driver has been holding his own. He's gotten it up to 5th since the start of the race, and he's not relinquished it since we've looked at him. They're coming upon Reed Miller, who's second in the GTOs. I'm not sure if he's going to get him on this straight up to the hairpin, though. He might be able to outbrake him if he's very deep. And the answer to that is no.
This is going to hold up Olsen. This is going to give Hovdal an opportunity here off of the exit of the corner, as long as he doesn't spin it. He gets pretty close, but now they're going to have to pass Reed Miller through the twisty bits.
I think they're both going to be able to get by pretty easily here. Yep, there they go, both outbraking him, although Miller held up on the exit slightly from Hovdal, trying to sneak through. So they continue on their way. Remember, they still have Dennis Neidhart as well. And Dennis has extended his gap up to about 4 seconds, but he doesn't want to give anything away, considering he's got one more lap to go here. In fact, the white flag just flew for Albrecht just now.
Justin Albrecht having run a very consistent race. All he needs to do is get through this final lap clean. He has about 5 seconds on Ardo Iamaki, so he has a little bit of time to play with.
Meanwhile, Hovdal got a great exit coming off of Le Mans, and he's using the slipstream of both the GTO of Neidhart and of Olsen as they go to the inside of the GTO, going wide for Colin, giving everybody space, very wide for Laust Olsen, and unfortunately way off and close to the grass. He keeps it together. Hovdal now within about 0.2 of a second. He closes in down the front stretch, but he's not close enough for the first corner.
Yeah, Laust Olsen carrying a lot of speed through these corners. Hovdal looks like he's struggling a little bit on the high-speed corners there to keep the traction down. Look at this. He's able to close in through these twisty sections. He has a lot of front drive on that thing.
And off of turn 5, a bad exit from Hovdal is going to compromise him. He falls back from Olsen. Keep an eye on this as long as we can, but Albrecht is just about to come onto the Ullman Straight soon. They are both pushing, nervous for what is going to happen up to the finish line. We're going to have to duck away because Justin Albrecht, as he comes into Sunset Bent at 170 miles an hour, gets onto the brakes, eases it up. A handy 4.5 second gap is going to give him a comfortable victory. The number 2 wins here today in the season opener for the Kamel GT Series.
Back in championship form for Justin Albrecht. Fantastic seeing that. Hopefully he can have a great season. This is good signs for things to come.
That battle's not over. We still have time to watch this because they're ahead of our GTO leader, Hovdal. continuing to hound Olsen. He is close, but it's going to take a mighty move for him to try and take it away through Sunset Bend. It's his last chance, and he is gaining. He's closing it down. Does he dare try and send it in? He does, but he's not quite there, and he can't get the overlap. If Olsen gets a decent exit, he's got this 5th place. He took 5th in the championship, and he's going to round it out with a 5th on the season opener. Behind them, Dennis Neidhart around the final corner has extended it to 6 seconds. He fended off Reed Miller, who fought him hard for it, but the champion takes a victory on the first race of the season.
A great victory for him, and well fought between him and Reed Miller, who comes home in 2nd place. Reed just losing out to the traffic today.
It's going to be the last of our drivers trickling across the line now, and all of our battles are pretty much done. That's going to take us to break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Stick around, because on screen you'll see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Sebring International Raceway. We just watched round 1 of the Kamel GT series. Boy, that was a fantastic race out there. Some incredible action. And it was Justin Albrecht, probably one of the few that didn't see that action, who came away with the win in the prototypes. Ardo Iamaki chased him home. He did manage to get into second after some problems for Fabian Gerber, who tried to chase him back down but couldn't snatch that back. Gerber settled for third. Michael Houghton, with some issues of his own, wound up in fourth place ahead of Laust Olsen, who withstood some pressure and finished with the top 5 today. Matthias Hovdahl was the one giving the pressure, and he finished in 6th. Tobias Gerber was 7th, gaining a number of positions late in the race after an accident in front of him handed him those spots. Martin Krejcik finished in 8th, with Sintez Galindo in 9th. Gabriel Lanini also with those other 2 I just mentioned involved in that accident and winding up 10th. Pablo Suarez was 11th, and you've got Michael Fazzari, first car a lap down in 12th position. Ryan Lang was 13th, and Mike Reuter, who had a scary spin in front of our GTO leaders, in 14th. Guilherme Kramer was P15, and a slew of prototypes DNF'd behind them, and we've already gotten to the GTOs.
The Anvil takes it home with a win. Dennis Neidhart taking first place over Reed Miller, who got caught up in traffic and was unable to mount a challenge towards the end of that race. Joico Lascala comes home in 3rd place after being very consistent, with Alice Scurry, after having that slowdown, exiting onto the back straight, just unable to catch back up to the front pack. Nico Arvelomi, after struggling with his gearbox, comes home in 5th, with Andrea Albertinelli also struggling with his gearbox in 6th place. Nicholas Weatherby is one of the GTPs who finished quite a ways back, with Hideki Koivisto coming home in the 7th position for the GTOs. Nick Mikanos also did not finish, with Remigio De Pasqua, Simo Raba, Giulio Forcolin, and Greg Stefani, as well as Michael Frost, Thierry Rochat, Pablo Rangel rounding out your GTOs. Then we have Luka Legchevich, Andre Jito, Kitty Ingstrom, Johnny Bell, and Roy Pruitt, your final finishers today.
And it looks like we've got Reed Miller, our 2nd place finisher in the GTOs, ready to talk to us. Reed, I have to ask, when was the last time you had a win? Because you look thirsty for that victory out there today in that fight.
Yep, it's been a while, so I'm not exactly sure how long, but I'm really gunning for this season for sure.
It certainly seems like it. You did also kind of miss out a little bit on the championship. You were in the hunt for a while last season as well, and the GTO championship. You started off on a good foot. You've got a 2nd place at least, so that's points on the board. Do you think maybe you could challenge the likes of Hagner and Neidhart and maybe look at overall victory as well?
Yep, we're definitely going for it. I mean, it was kind of in my grasp today, but I lost track of Dennis, I guess, around the 3/4 point. I just kind of couldn't catch up to anymore. But yeah, I think in the future, I'll be right there. That's the plan.
We happened to also get to catch your incident that we saw with you, and I think it was Mike Reuter in the GTPs spinning in front of you. What was going through your mind when that prototype suddenly shot off to the side?
Yeah, I don't think I hit him. I think he just lit the tires up. So, I mean, I was glad about that. I know it happens a lot. It's very easy to spin the tires up at that corner, especially.
Certainly seemed like it, especially at a track as bumpy as this. Before we let you go, though, is there anybody you'd like to thank for this podium today?
Well, big thanks to the Dirty Torque team. We got 3 cars running at the other Sebring today, so hopefully we can get some good results there. And thanks to you guys.
Well, thank you for coming and talking to us. That was Reed Miller, who was our 2nd place finisher in the GTOs. We've got 4th place from the prototypes. Adam has caught up with Michael Houghton.
Yeah, Michael, first, before we get onto this race, how is it driving this GTP? I know you made the switch this season into the GTP and working with those Dirty Torque guys. How is it with this new car on this track?
It's treacherous, man. It's been a while since I drove this thing, and coming back to it, using Justin's set, it's definitely one of the tougher tracks on this car, and vice versa.
Yeah, definitely. You said you were using Justin's set. I mean, I know he's fast, but I also know that his sets tend to be a little bit on edge. How challenging was it out there at Sebring?
It was. I knew that the set was going to start to fall off about 15, 20 laps in, and I just wanted to keep my tires, keep the tread from wearing off too much, and just not crashing into anybody. And it seemed to work out today. Top 5. That's my goal today.
Yeah, we saw a couple of tense moments from you throughout the race. And how was dealing with the traffic today, being on the other side of it in the GTP today?
It's definitely a learning experience every time you switch. But driving the Audi, I know what the Audis can do, so definitely give them a lot of room to work with. But yeah, it was not as tough as I thought it would be. But yeah, I almost lost it into Sunset. Well, I lost it into Sunset Bend. Saw Kitty Engstrom there losing it, but yeah, other than that, we had a pretty good day.
Definitely. And so, what are your goals for this season? Jumping back in, are you hoping to get a podium, challenge Justin for the win of the championship?
Realistically, probably top 5. Top 3 would be my ultimate goal, but yeah, top 5 is realistic.
Definitely. Well, Michael, it's been a while since we talked to you. Is there anyone you want to thank today?
Just you guys, you do a great job, and can't wait to see you next week.
Awesome. Good luck to your team in the Sebring 12 hour, and we look forward to seeing you next week, Michael.
Thank you guys. Yeehaw!
That was Michael Houghton, our 4th place driver in the GTPs. Back to you, Joe.
Always got to get that in, does Michael Houghton. That's going to close things up, and we also wish everybody who is competing in the Sebring 12 hours for iRacing the best of luck. Stay safe and stay hydrated out there. Thanks as well goes to the Kamel GT series for bringing us back for another season of coverage, and also to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And thanks to the team today, Adam, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Check out our social media. We have a Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, we've got a merchandise store linked in the description below. But while you're there, check out the big red button that says subscribe. Make sure and click it so that you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar, because next week is going to be Montreal, Saturday, March 21st at 1 p.m. Eastern here for the Kamel GT series. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.